So, like I was saying, Cynthia Vera was still covering up the fact that Austin Metter was abusing me, and she had put on the paperwork filing for temporary custody that she didn't feel that either one of us should have custody of Melbourne, which was deceitful because um, the only reason why I didn't have Melbourne was because her son was attacking me. And the time period that she had helped me out financially, the state would have helped me out, but I would have had to file to put Austin Metter on child support. And when I was told her that I was going to file to put him on child support when he was in prison, because I had a part-time job and I was trying to get some assistance to become independent, Cynthia O'Vera asked me not to do that, saying that when he got out of prison, he would owe too much back pay, and that she and Joe would help me out with the bills, because they didn't want me to have to file to put Austin Metter on child support to receive any benefits from the state that I needed, because I was trying to file for temporary assistance for needy families, because I wasn't making enough to cover my bills. And I wanted to see if I could get some sort of assistance. And in order for me to do that, the state told me that I needed to file to put Austin on child support. And I was very close to Cynthia at the time. And I told her that I needed to put him on child support, and she was like, no, don't do that with her. So that's how Joe and Cynthia ended up paying the rent, because it wasn't that I wasn't independent. It wasn't that I was trying to live off of them. That's not what the case was. She did not want Austin to owe back child support because she said he would not pay it and that he would end up just going back to prison. So it was always in his best interest, and then it backfired on me to where they tried to make it seem like I was an unfit mother because I couldn't take care of Melbourne by myself and that I didn't have a job. Melbourne was going to Magnolia PC TPC something. It was a daycare, and he had just started going. He was only 9 months, and I had been working, but Melbourne fell down at the daycare. There's no reason why you should allow a 9-month-old baby have to go to the hospital and get stitches in right above his eye. So I've never allowed my son to get hurt. So at that point, I let him stay for a little bit, but I was like, no, I'll just watch my son until he gets to be 2 years old. Because if you're claiming that because he was 9 months old and he was wearing baby shoes, that's the reason why you allowed my 9-month-old baby to bust his eyelid and have to go in, and I had to come rushing and take him to get stitches, then he don't need to be in that daycare, period. And Cynthia was trying to take up for them, and I'm like, no, and she was trying to pay other people to watch my baby that was not taking care of him the way that they should have been. And then you have a problem with his mother taking care of him while he's at that young age. He was at a very young, tender age, and this is what God said. I had a small child, so I was at home because I had a small child. And regardless of whatever women, worked while your baby was small, okay, your situation is not my situation. I chose to stay and keep my baby when he was a small child. So Judge Tracy Gilbert now had Cynthia O'Vera and me and Austin in his courtroom to give Austin Metter's mother, Cynthia O'Vera, temporary custody of Melbourne Metter now because Austin was in the jail. And God was saying they never should have even arrested me. They never should have charged me with anything. So to have me still in your jail and holding me and then staging a custody hearing to try to take my son from me, and that I was in there for protecting my son, it's just completely ludicrous. It's bogus. It's just wrong. And they had me in the courtroom pregnant, lying about my pregnancy, and got me in front of this new judge who's not even a judge over my criminal case. And now you're trying to make it about something else. You're just trying to find a reason to arrest me or to keep me incarcerated and then to paint me out to be this and that. So Cynthia O'Vera now took over what Austin was trying to do, and trying to make herself get custody of Melbourne, to try to make me out to be like I was an unfit mother. I had Melbourne. I took care of Melbourne by myself just fine before Austin got out of prison. And when Austin got out of prison, he came to my home and he was attacking me, and he was attacking Melbourne in the home and in the community. And here she was standing in front of the courtroom lying, talking about she wanted to try to get custody from me of my child because her son was abusing me, and Austin had been abusing Cynthia as well, where she had to get a restrictive order from him. So Judge Tracy was aware of this too, and then he was like, oh, do I need to get foster care? What reason is there to get foster care when you know I've been abused by this man? So they tried to make it about money and trying to say, oh, what's your income and what's this? That have nothing to do. Me and my son was doing just fine, and we would have been just fine getting Cynthia and Joe and Austin out of our life. They don't need to worry about, oh, how they gonna survive, how they gonna make it. No, we don't need them in our lives, period. We'll be just fine. I don't need Cynthia talking about, oh, well, I've been paying her, but I don't care, because I already was applying for stuff for me and my son through the state. We would have been fine. He was a small child, and there's women that I know with grown, big older teenagers that's getting help from somewhere. We will be all right. I do not need Cynthia trying to make it seem like her pocketbook or anything that she got going on can keep me from my son. I don't care if I don't have a dime. My son needs to be with me. There is help for us financially. It will make a way. And talking about I'm lazy and I don't want a job and I just want to live out the state, oh, whatever. If I need assistance, I ain't never had assistance. God said I qualify for her, and if I do, then no one can say anything. If that's what I need to help me get on my feet, the Lord said I'll get a job. I done had a job. I'll get a job and take care of my son. But if I need a little help at first for us, then I needed a little help at first for us. It's better than Cynthia O'Vera trying to keep us in abusive households, because that's what she did when she was in there lying for Austin, and he attacked he attacked that woman around my son. So you rather try to keep my baby in an abusive household, because you talking about y'all got money or whatever. I don't care about that. And this CPS was never involved to take my son, but they had to get involved because of the situation of the fact that a gun went off around Melbourne, and they were trying to cover that up too. And say that I shot him while he was holding Melbourne, and they didn't tell the truth, that he was being violent with him and that he was attacking us at the time that he was shot. And so it's just a lot. It's a lot. And they had me in the courtroom with Cynthia O'Vera when I got out, and they had family and friends, people that I just met. I didn't know, because my family left me out there to where I had to meet all kind of strangers, and they were involved with trying to set me up. They were criminals needing charges dropped. And they had brought me up in their houses, and they was doing crazy stuff, shooting and just being dumb. And then they were trying to keep me from the custody hearing, and the man held the gun to me 2 times, because they reset the custody hearing, and they were lying in the custody hearing, saying that I didn't complete stuff that they told me to do, and they never told me to do any of that stuff, because it wasn't that you was reprimanding me for anything about my child to where I needed to be doing no type of class. Austin needed to be doing class. Then it's talking about, well, everybody got to do it. They never told me to do it, and they shouldn't have had me in custody court trying to take my baby from me anyway, and they never told me to do that stuff. So they reset the court date, and when they set the child custody court date, there was nobody in there but Judge Tracy Gilbert, Cynthia O'Vera, her lawyer, Austin lawyer or whatever, or her lawyer for sure, and then one other white man, and then the little couple of white women that worked for Judge Tracy Gilbert. And Cynthia was lying in the courtroom. And they basically was like, oh, well, where are you living? And then it was like, oh, well, she homeless. I was like, well, I was staying with my sister, but basically that wasn't my house or whatever. And my sister had tried to put me out, and was like, I was like, why would you put me out right before I'm about to get my son back? and because I had got out, I was looking for a job, and I was like, why would you do that? And she was like, well, I didn't know you was going to get your son back. And I just had to step away from her and not even go to the conversation. And I was like, when I got to myself, I was like, what the hell? She mean she didn't know I was going to get my son back. My son should have never been taken from me. What the hell do she mean that I wouldn't get my son back? You ain't know I was getting my son back. But maybe she meant, oh, she didn't know I was getting my son back right then. I don't give a damn what maybe she meant. They know what the hell going on, and they know that I should have been had my baby. And it's wrong. And so, but because she a white woman and she got some money, that mean, she can know that I'm being abused by her son and she could just take my child. No, that's not right. And this is why I say my family don't stand up for me. They ain't gonna stand up for me. And it's like a sore. It's like just even thinking about my family. It's like looking at a nasty sore. You don't want to look at it. You just turn away. It's like you don't even want to mention none of the stuff that they do to abandon me. So I ain't got time for it. And then they turn around and be like, well, I did all this for her. I did that for her. She did. I don't want to hear it. Because this is a situation where they had Judge Tracy Gilbert tried to order me to go and see my son in the supervised facility. And then when I tried to go and see him, they was like, oh, you got to pay $100. Then you got to pay another $200. They was trying to make me pay money to see my son in the supervised facility like I was some wild animal. And Austin was the one attacking him. And Austin probably, I think they ordered for him to see him in the supervised facility too. But I didn't care. I was like, because my child was in my arms while his daddy was attacking me. So ain't no you finna have me and God was have me having to see my son in a supervised facility like I need white people or black people or anybody supervising me with my son. That's wrong. They the ones need to be supervised at all times with my son. And the Lord was like that these white women don't have no right to be trying to say that they need to have any type of supervision, that I need any type of supervision with my son, because they was not there to protect him when Austin Metter was hurting him. So you don't have no right to say that I have to be supervised with my child, because I was right there to protect him when his daddy was hurting him. And then they tried to make it seem like he was disciplining Melbourne. Melbourne was between the ages of 20 months old and 22 months old when Austin John Metter got out of prison. So for him to have punched him and have knocked him all on his head, and for him to have snatched up Melbourne and been being stupid with him like that, that's not discipline, and he too young. He was too young for you to be calling yourself disciplining him. You not disciplining him at 22 months old. He's a baby. He wasn't doing nothing wrong. You don't abuse children. And that's what he was doing. And so then Melbourne is older now, so people was trying to make it seem, even at the time, they was trying to make it seem like people from all over the country were trying to make it seem like, oh, a daddy got the right to discipline his son, and you could beat the hell out your kids. And they had people bringing me in their house, beating the hell out their little kids. And they was only 2 years old, and I had to ask one of them, do not beat that child like that in front of me. I mean, little small babies trying to prove a point. He was not whooping Melbourne with no belt. He was knocking him down straight on his head, punching him, pushing him off of furniture, snatching him up and slinging him all around, holding him upside down and all of that. Being stupid. That ain't no disciplining no child. That's being violent and stupid. That's abuse. And y'all ain't gonna try to minimize it. And that's what they've been trying to do. Minimize what Austin was doing. And he was not a father. He was gone since Melbourne was 6 weeks old for being violent with us. But they tried to say that he was that he went for a probation violation for assault on a public servant. But he was ransacking my home, and he had been trying to hurt Melbourne as a newborn, and he was hurting me in front of my newborn, in front of Melbourne, and hurting me while I was pregnant the entire time with him. And the white women in the neighborhood were being very vicious to me because I was pregnant by him. And saying that Melbourne was not his, and when Melbourne was born, he was his, and they didn't feel like I should get the proper assistance as a mother from his father to help me out, and I wasn't getting anything from the state. Come on now, people, that's not right. Every woman should have some type of help, and I did not have that growing up, and I not much. I had some help, but not much, not like a lot of these other girls I see. And I didn't, and that's beside the point. This ain't about my childhood, but it has some ties to it, because I didn't have any assistance from Melbourne as a mother. I didn't, and I didn't have it from the state. So any help that I got came from Austin's family, and then Cynthia was trying to get me to not get help from anybody else because she wanted to keep me dependent upon her so she could control the situation, and that's what she's doing. And she's trying to say because of her income and because of what Joe paid for out of his money or whatever little stuff she paid for, she's trying to use that as a reason to say that it was okay for her son to abuse me and to lie and cover up the fact that Austin John Metter was abusing me. He was not a father to Melbourne. He was gone. He was in prison. He had been trying to hurt us, and he went to jail. And that was the last time that I was going to take him back. I told him because he had warrants for theft, and he had warrants for a drug charge that he had before he met me when they was releasing him out of prison, out of TDCJ, for the assault on a public servant. And Melbourne was 20 months old at the time, and I had taken care of Melbourne since he was a newborn, and he was walking and talking and everything. He was about to be 2, and I did not want Austin Metter coming back in the house. I was like, no, Cynthia, I don't know, because he had been getting into it with people in the jail, and they had denied him parole and deemed him a threat to public safety. And she was trying to get me to call and go get the warrants dropped for him because he wanted to come home. And I was saying, well, he had all this time to do it, Cynthia, and if he really cared about changing his life, he would have wrote the police department himself to get those warrants dropped, because I'm busy over here trying to raise a son and get my life together. I don't got time to be trying to worry about Austin getting charges dropped. Like, I could care less. Like, I was tired. I loved him. We talked. I brought his son up there to see him a few times. He promised me that he'll, never hurt me again. But he had put me in the hospital when I was pregnant with Melbourne. And when I gave birth to Melbourne, Melbourne couldn't breathe. And so, they tried to torture me throughout this pregnancy to just make me out to be this unfit mother. And it was very stressful for me not to have Melbourne, because he is my first child, my first son. I had never been pregnant before, besides Melbourne. I was 25 or 26 years old when I gave birth to Melbourne. I was very fit. I had passed several mental exams. My house had been examined by the state for jobs, and I had passed to have him in NCIS. And I was a very good mother. I took very good care of my home and the little that we did have. And it was very unfortunate that people were trying to tear me down and have me go to a custody hearing for my son that was not based off of any evidence other than Cynthia's finances at the time, and the fact that I didn't really have a stable home, because they had caused me to lose my apartment where I lived for 3 years. And I had told Cynthia several times that I did not want her paying the rent, that I would figure out something, even if that meant that me and Melbourne had to go to a shelter that accepted children as well. He is my son, and there ain't no better place better for him than with me. I don't care what money you got or anything, he is not her son. And God put emphasis on the fact that Austin was not her son either. And that her trying to, the Lord put it as if she was trying to steal someone's child. That she was trying to steal someone's baby, because there are plenty of women, white women, black women, women of all races, who have had situations where they did not have the finances, but they still had their child, and they still had to find the resources to take care of their children. From the time that I was pregnant with Melbourne to the time that I had gave birth to him and raised him, when his father got out of prison, Cynthia O'Vera and Joseph O'Vera had been helping me out. So every time I tried to break free and tried to pay some of the rent, they would not allow me. When I would offer to pay some of the rent, they would not take the money. And when I tried to get away from them and tell them I will find a way to pay the rent, they continued to pay it. And then she was saying that she didn't want nothing to happen to her credit, but she would not even give me a chance to try to get independent on my own. If that meant that I needed to move out of that house, her son was abusing me. This was the whole point. And she didn't want me to keep Melbourne from Austin. But I told her I won't keep him from his son. As long as he's not violent around him, and as long as he's not violent with him, then I will let him see Melbourne. Because I had told her to come and get the car. Because when I told her I told her for sure one day that I didn't want to be with Austin anymore. And she was saying, you need she said, well, I'm gonna come pick up that car that she gave me when I was 5 months pregnant with Melbourne. And I was like, okay, well, come and get the car then, because it's plenty of women who gotta catch rides or get on the bus or have to save up some money to buy their own car. They never really gave me the chance to see what kind of help I could get for me and my child to try to exit out of this relationship. Because regardless of what you could say I did before I was pregnant, it's different when you have a child. You have a child, he's here already, and there are ways and benefits for us that I'm going to apply for, and I don't want to be with Austin anymore. And this was what I was letting her know. I will try to make a way. Because I had the WIC, I had little stuff like that, Medicaid. But as far as trying to get, different types of assistance to where I could become independent as far as my rent, to where I didn't have to feel like I had to let Austin back in my home, because there were several times where I didn't want to let him back in the house because he was being violent. And Cynthia was trying to say, well, this is his house too. It was not, because my name was on the lease. So I ain't know she can argue with me about having her son up in my house and he's being violent, and then y'all lying about it, and he's continuing to do it, and I shot him. And so this is what this is all about. And she's steady trying to make it about finances and stuff. And she was saying she'll come get the car. I told her, come get the car. Then she said, oh, well, I don't want to come get the car, but I don't want to take it from my grandson, So I was like, because I told her, I was like, if you come try to take a car, I was like, come get the car. I see where Austin get his evil from. That's what I told her. Because if you want to try to take transportation that she had given me, Austin was not driving this car. He was in jail when she gave me the car, and he was in jail when I was telling her this, that I didn't want to be with him. But I had been driving the car for a while, and she was saying, well, I'm going to come take that car from you if you don't want to be with my son anymore. And I was like, okay, well, come and get the car. And I see where Austin get his evil from, because what you mean you going to take a car from me because I don't want to be with your son, but you gave the car to me. And my son, and then you want to use material things to try to hold over my head to make me stay with your son. And so I told her, come get it. And then she was like, no, never mind. I ain't gonna take it from my grandson. So, I can have a way to drive around with the baby. But at the end of the day, it's like I can still get around with him. Like, either way, I can still get around with him. And so she let me keep the car. And I told her, I was like, Cynthia, I'm not finna keep this car if you're gonna try to use this car to say that I have to be with Austin. I was like, because if I don't want to be with Austin, and then you're gonna be trying to come take this car from me every single time, then I need to try to make other plans for me to have transportation for us, And she was like, no, that's your car, I'm gonna put it in your name when you get a job and everything. And when I got a job, she still didn't want to put the car in my name and was making up excuses and stuff, saying that I didn't make enough money to pay the bill, to pay the insurance now. and we never had a discussion about her, about the insurance, and I was like, well, I'm pretty sure I could pay the insurance, and this was around the time that Austin was getting out of prison, but Austin had been out of the county after she gave me the car, and he was beating me up for the car. And this is what the Lord was saying too. The Lord was saying that Austin was beating me up. He was saying that I was pregnant, and that Austin was beating me up for my car. And God said it was my car because Cynthia O'Vera and Joseph O'Vera told me that I could have it. And God said that Austin Metter was beating me up and robbing me for my car. And he said specifically that it was my car because they told me that I could have it. And that they knew, and everybody knew, he was beating me up and robbing me for my car when he got out of prison, and every time he would get out of jail. And then they was trying to make it seem like it was both of our car or whatever, but they knew that it was my car. They may not have put it in my name, but the different conversations in the time period that I had it in my possession under the circumstances that I did, we had already discussed that if I did not want to be with Austin, that I would keep the car. And so we even had the discussion with Joseph in the living room, and Joseph was saying Austin could not take the car from me, and he was threatening to fight Joseph and threatening to burn the house down if he could not take my car from me, and refusing to leave my home without the vehicle. And the Lord put emphasis on the fact that he was robbing me for my money. He was beating me up for my money. And if he would give me any type of child support for mail, or even if it wasn't for mail, like even if he just give me money for myself, because when we was in a relationship, he would give me money after abusing me sometimes to try to make up for stuff, and then he'll turn back around and rob me for it and beat me up and take the money. And God was like, she wouldn't allow a black man to come in her house and then be stealing the money from her, and then he's coming in there and he's robbing her, he's stealing her money, and she don't want him in her house, and people over here trying to force her to have this man in her house, and then Austin was telling me when I was calling the police that Cynthia O'Vera and Joseph O'Vera was plotting to give him my apartment. And Judge Patty Maginnis did give him my apartment when I went to jail, after he had been attacking me in Melbourne and I shot him. They did do a temporary protective order saying that if I had bonded out, that I could not go to my property, after I had been calling 911 on Austin Metter several times to get him out of my home, asking the police to remove him from my home when he got out of prison because he was assaulting me in the house. So they had given him my apartment while I was in the jail, and then they drew up a very falsified protective order, saying that I could not come to my apartment if I bonded out, and that I could not come around my son if I bonded out, that I could not come around Cynthia O'Vera, that I could not come around Joseph O'Vera if I bonded out, and that I wouldn't have anywhere to go if I bonded out, that I wouldn't have. And then there were gang members and people who wanted to hurt me as well if I bonded out, that wanted to try to shoot me and do stuff to me in defense of Austin, because he was white. So my family, they stopped answering my phone calls and stuff like that while I was incarcerated. And they were talking about, Cynthia was saying, I don't have any finances and stuff, but God was saying that don't have nothing to do with the fact that he abusing your sister, he abusing her and her son in that house, her money situation, that don't got nothing to do with the fact that he's in her apartment abusing her, period. It's like people was trying to create all kind of reasons to overlook the fact that he was in her apartment abusing her and her son, period. That's it. Ain't nothing else to it. Ain't nothing you taking her child, keeping her baby. Ain't nothing she owe you no child support. Ain't nothing she gotta have no job, no place, no none of that to try to prove to y'all anything. Y'all trying to make this about something else. You trying to find a reason to arrest this woman. You want her in jail for shooting a gun. That's it. That's what this whole thing is about. And ain't no you trying to get the women in the court to try to conjure up another reason as to why you want to arrest Andrea Jones. You trying to do it because she shot a gun, and you not telling the truth about why she shot the gun, because Austin Meadows should be in prison based off the true facts. And that's what God been saying. That she and that they should give her a new apartment. God said they should give her a new apartment for her and her babies. Ain't no she got to get nothing. No, she the one who need the help and the money right now. She need to raise money for her cause. She don't need to be nobody trying to drain her from her money. She could take care of herself and her son. Once she get on her feet, she'll work. And that's what God said. So, it's just very unfortunate because when I went to the child custody hearing, I didn't have a stable home, and they was talking about Cynthia make money and stuff like that, so he gave custody of my child to Cynthia O'Vera, and then he tried to order me to pay her $300 a month at first. But he didn't really order me to pay her anything at the last one. But when he first said that he wanted me in Austin to pay money when we got out or whatever, and then they wanted me to pay $300 to come and see her. And I remember I was working somewhere, and then I didn't get no money off of my check. And then people was doing stuff to me in their house and trying to have me on the streets, and then they wouldn't hire me at none of the companies. And then when I had got one of my checks, they talking about that I didn't have no check, so I was surviving, and they was over here trying to set it up to take my life. And I just really trust in God, because God said that Cynthia O'Vera was wrong for trying to keep me from my son. So ain't no I owe nobody no child support. Ain't no I owe nobody no money, because I don't know what situation you gonna try to make up now. God was saying that they was trying to say that I was a prostitute, and the Lord was very angry because he was saying that they didn't have no right to be saying those type of things about me. And basically God was saying that Cynthia O'Vera was wrong to try to keep me from my son, to not have any contact with Cynthia O'Vera. And he said that she was going to try to find a way to try to have me arrested first, because God told me to tell Cynthia that I was pressing charges against Austin Meadows. But she was angry about she wanted me to stay away from her son, because she didn't want him to have to go to prison, and that she would do anything to try to keep him from having to go back to prison. But God was saying that he's going. He said that he's going to learn a lot of lessons, because he's been abusing women, and that was my apartment, and not to have any contact with Cynthia outside of letting her know that I was pressing charges